Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. This past weekend was BlizzCon 2023 and we got a lot of really great stuff for Overwatch 2 and I want to talk about it all today. I want to talk a lot about the esports stuff as we go forward. The World Cup was phenomenal. I'm going to try to do a more in-depth, deeper dive into the World Cup and kind of the future of Overwatch esports as we go on. There was an article that came out this weekend from Jacob Wolf about the future of the Overwatch League, and so I think I'm going to try to save some of the full thoughts for the World Cup and all of that stuff for a future video. So I'm not going to talk about that as much in this one. Today I want to really focus on Overwatch 2 and the gameplay news and all that type of stuff because I think this weekend really was a huge weekend for the game. The World Cup was a big part of that, absolutely. But I thought that the presence that the Overwatch team had at the opening ceremony, in the Mauga panel, and in the Overwatch What's Next panel were phenomenal. And I think they really did kind of open us up to the future of the game and what's to come. So I'm going to be using a Reddit thread to kind of go through some of the stuff, as well as some of my own personal notes to kind of go through things. I will link to this thread in the description. It was compiled by Alexi on r/competitive Overwatch. So huge shout out to them for giving us the nice all-in-one place news about BlizzCon. So let's start with the big, obvious, big announcement they made during the opening ceremony, which was our look at the next hero, which is, of course, Mauga. I already talked about Mauga in a video all about him and his kit that went up over the weekend, so I'll link to that in the description, in the cards, and at the end of this video if you want to check it out, where I give my thoughts on him as a hero. We got his gameplay trailer, his origin story, all that type of stuff. Those are the only cinematics we got from the Overwatch team during this BlizzCon, so no kind of traditional fancy cinematic, which is fine. I wanted one. I didn't expect we would get one. I felt like there was going to be a lot of other stuff they were going to announce, considering they literally just worked on a music video that got released with Le Seraphim. Yeah, I kind of expected we wouldn't get a cinematic this year. I think they're going to focus more on putting cinematics into the game instead of putting them out separately. But Mauga, really, really cool hero. I'm hoping we get a little bit more from him in the future. I'm hoping we see some tweaks to him before his full official release at the beginning of Season 8. But he's cool, and I'm happy we got him, and I'm ready for the future of heroes with Mauga and beyond. But we'll talk more about that a little bit later. Another thing coming in Season 8 is some changes to Hero Mastery, or at least some additions to Hero Mastery. So we're going to get 5 new courses in Season 8. One for Diva, Echo, Genji, Lucio, and Mei. And then there will be a leaderboard reset, which is really, really cool. And a replay feature that you can kind of go back to some of your key moments from the game, or from your thing, and take a look at it, which is really, really cool. I think Hero Mastery was fun. I played it for a couple days when it first came out. I haven't played the Winston one, but I did all the other ones. I had a fun time trying to do the challenges, trying to beat my score. Just had a little fun with it. I think it's a nice change of pace. It's cool ways to learn heroes that maybe you don't know super well. I think if you're getting into the game for the first time and you don't know the heroes super well, I think it's a good way to kind of introduce you to the heroes that kind of throwing you into the fire right away. There's obviously limitations to it, but it's a fun thing, and I think it's cool to kind of have a leaderboard and all this other stuff to really kind of get into the game and really learn the game in a way that's really fun and engaging and interesting. It's just good for the game to have these options, these opportunities, and they're expanding Hero Mastery more in the future, and some of that stuff we'll talk about as we go forward. But those are the things that are coming in Season 8. I think they're cool. We don't know the theme yet for Season 8. We did get teases about what some of the future themes will be for some of the future battle passes. but they didn't say when we can expect them. They said that we're going to get one on Eldritch Horrors, Egyptian mythology, witches, and one that's an alternate universe where heroes become villains and villains become heroes. I have a feeling that last one will most likely be the next story missions season, because that's still like a lore connection, and so it kind of makes sense to do that. But the other ones we don't know yet. And we'll see when those come in the future, what they will be. But it will be interesting to see for sure when we actually do get there, what the seasons are and what the next one is. Eldritch Horror seems like a weird one to do in December. So I don't know what's going to happen in December. I think mythology would be cool for December, or witches, but I definitely think Eldritch Horror should not be the one in December, especially since the current one is kind of a spooky theme. But that's just me. But let's move on to the other really cool stuff they announced going into the future. The biggest thing, I would argue the biggest thing, is the new PvP game mode, Clash. It is a 5 capture point mode. They did post a kind of infographic that kind of explains how it works. You can see the two teams each start with 2 points. There's a middle point they fight over. The team that captures that point then is able to kind of move into the other team's territory. So, for example, if Team A, or the blue team, whatever you want to call it, Team 1, captures point C, they then would own A, B, and C, and point D would open up for them to try to capture. And then if they capture point D, they could go to point E. And if they capture point E, they'd win the game. Or there's a score maximum that if you reach that score, the game ends as well. And I think it's an interesting sounding mode. It's kind of what I want or wanted Push to become, because to me that is really kind of what Push could be better at. I think the way that Push works, it's very hard to come back. It's very hard to win games if the other team's pushed really far. I don't think we're going to get anything like that. I don't think they're going to rework the push maps into Clash, but just kind of a thing of note that I did think about, and so I'm excited that we're getting a mode that is that, so we can kind of compare them, which will be nice for that reason. They also announced that the first Clash map we can expect is Hanaoka, which is a map that takes place basically on a street right next to Hanamura, the former Assault map, which is really, really cool. Assault, very, very, very controversial game mode, not incredibly popular, had a lot of problems, but for whatever reason, Assault maps, 2 of the Assault maps in particular, were some of the most beautiful maps in all of Overwatch, with Hanamura and Paris. Paris, very hated map, but Hanamura was definitely, I think, one of the more popular Assault maps, and it was a beautiful, beautiful map. So I'm really happy we're getting another one, which, yeah, it's Hanaoka. It's a different map entirely, but it is at least inspired by Hanamura and still kind of has some of the same look to it, which is really nice. I'm excited to get to explore what Hanaoka has when we get into that game mode. So it'll definitely be cool to get a new game mode. I think my weird take, potentially, and maybe people agree, maybe people disagree, about the amount of new modes they keep adding. I have a lot of problems with the lack of map diversity in modes like Flashpoint and Push, and presumably with Clash when it comes out. Because when I get into Overwatch, one of the problems I run into is because of the lack of diversity in some of the new modes. I get into, usually when I play Overwatch, I play for like a couple hours, and I get through a lot of games in that time. And I feel like every time I play Overwatch, I play Esperanza, Coliseo, and New Queen Street. Maybe I only play them once each, but I feel like I play all of them. I usually play Saravasa and New Junk City, and usually I feel like I play one of them twice, usually. But I don't always play all the Assault maps, right? Or all the Hybrid maps or Escort maps or Control maps. I think I've played Samoa a grand total of like 2 times, maybe 3 times. And the last time I played Overwatch, I definitely played New Queen Street. At least once. And I think that is part of the problem if they keep adding new modes and they don't add maps of, from Push or Flashpoint or Clash. Now, they didn't show any like direct screenshots of it or really talk about it, but they talked a little bit about it. But there is a Peru map coming, and from what we can tell, it appears to be a push map. So we will be getting at least a 4th push map, hopefully sometime next year. They didn't say anything about it, but there was some images of it that seem to show that we're getting another push map, which is good. The more push maps we get, hopefully the more they can fill out that map type, and we'll get a little more diversity in our games in push. It gets boring, especially when you watch Overwatch League, and it was like you knew it was one of the 3 push maps, and if the team had a choice, it was always going to be Esperanza or New Queen Street. And when Flashpoint first got added, it was literally always Surabasa. Every game had a Surabasa, and you're like, all right, cool, this is fun. So that's my one like potential concern with Clash. But I think if Clash is the last game mode we get in a little while, and they just keep adding the maps in a rotation kind of the 3 new modes, I think we'll be in a place where that will stop being a problem. Maybe they do some kind of map pool then once they have a little bit more of a robust map pool. But we'll see when we get there. Next, let's talk about the heroes. When I made my video last week about the kind of things I wanted to see at BlizzCon, my hopes and predictions and expectations, I said that I didn't expect us to get news about what the roles for the next few heroes would be, but I wanted to get it, right? I was like, I'd love to see it. I'd love to hear it. I don't really think we will, but I'd love to. Not only did we get the confirmation that the next 3 heroes will be 1 from each of the 3 roles, so we're getting 1 tank, 1 support, and 1 damage hero, they also showed us the next 2 heroes after Malga. Now, when I'm talking about the next heroes being a tank, a damage, and a support, those are the 3 heroes after Malga. So in 2024, we're getting 3 new heroes. 1 tank, 1 support, 1 damage. Malga is coming out at the end of this year. So just keep that in mind. And we got the concept art and some information on the next 2 heroes. Venture is the hero coming in Season 10. They are a damage hero. We learned a little bit about them as a character. We know they are from Canada, and they are an archaeologist. And they are the game's first non-binary character, which is phenomenal. Very excited about that. It's awesome. We saw some gameplay from the character as well. Some kind of rough early test gameplay. They said stuff can change, but we did get a look at least at what they're able to do. We also saw a little tease in the gameplay footage of the tank hero. We didn't really get much of anything. It's very hard to make out anything because the picture's small and also looks like a turtle, so I don't know what's going on there. But we got a look at Venture. I think Venture's very cool. Their digging ability, very cool, and I'm excited to see what happens with them, and I think they are a really, really fun character to see. Then in Season 12, we are getting the support hero. Space Ranger is her code name. We don't know much about her. We do know she's from the Mars colony, which I didn't know there was a Mars colony until this happened, so that's always very nice. She's got an SMG that is maybe not an SMG forever. So we'll see. But I like her design a lot. She's a cool character. I'm excited to see where she goes. And like I said, there's also a tank that we don't really know anything about, but we do know that at some point we will be getting a tank for the 2024 final hero, mostly Season 14, I believe they said, is when we will expect that. So that's very, very cool. I'm excited for these 2 heroes, and they have cool designs, and can't wait to see more about them. They spent a lot of time going into competitive play and the changes that they're going to make to competitive. I've been very clear that I don't play a lot of competitive. I've had moments and time. I used to play a lot more than I do now. I just stopped really finding it fulfilling. It's just not something I particularly care about. I don't have the competitive drive to rank up and really kind of feel that progress and pride. I don't. And so for me, I was kind of curious to see if there was going to be much in this competitive update that we know they're getting, this overhaul of the system that really did kind of sell me on like, yep, I got to get into competitive now. And I'll just be blunt and say no. Nothing really that they announced here makes me think that competitive is something that all of a sudden I'm going to care a lot more about now. But we did get a bunch of announced changes that I think are mostly positive. They're adding a new rank above Grandmaster, which is Ultimate. So now there's more stuff to strive for than just Grandmaster, which I think is good. They said that there's too many players in Grandmaster, and so they wanted to add something to add to that achievement. They're getting rid of the 5 wins or 15 losses requirement to update your rank. And they're adding placements back from Overwatch 1. And they're just kind of overhauling the whole system now so that instead of having the kind of weird updates where you don't know where you are in your rank, where maybe you start a season as like the lowest possible thing in Gold 3 imaginable, and by the end of the season you're just on the cusp of Gold 2, but you don't know where you are because you don't really have the way to kind of check. Now there's progress bars that kind of show you, hey, you're 85% of the way through this rank, or you're 75%, or you're 25% of the way. And so you know more where you are in that rank and how you can get up or down, you know, how close you are or how far you are to those types of things. And there's also some things about like predicted rank and all that other stuff. Like, it's good changes to competitive play if you care about competitive play. Definitively good changes for that reason, which I think is really, really nice. I am the most critical of the new competitive rewards. When I heard new competitive rewards, I was hoping we would get something that actively made me want to go, this is stuff that is worth playing competitive to try to unlock and try to get. Maybe it's skins, maybe it's sprays or emotes or whatever. But the new competitive rewards are that now, instead of just having gold weapons, they're also going to have emerald weapons. Wow. Amazing. Incredible. I'll be honest with you, I don't care really about just a different coloration of weapons. I think competitive, the vision that they have for competitive, and I do generally agree with it, is the idea that people should play competitive not to get cosmetics, but because they want to play competitive, right? They want to rank up, they want to get all that type of stuff. And I think it is better to make competitive an experience where if you play competitive, you're playing it because you actually care about earning stuff, and not because you care about winning and ranking up, and that's why you play, and not because you want a skin or something like that. But to me, the weapon rewards just aren't that good. And I think there's a balance between how do you make rewards that people actually want when they play competitive versus how do you make rewards that aren't so coveted that people who don't actually care about competitive feel the need to play competitive to get them, which then can potentially hurt other people's competitive experiences because they're playing games with people who don't really care as much as they do. It is a genuine challenge, but I just don't really care about golden weapons or the emerald weapons, and I would like to see more competitive rewards as time goes on. They're also making a bunch of changes to matchmaking competitive, which I think is really, really cool. They're making it where you are essentially able to now queue with literally anybody There's no restrictions about who you can and can't queue with. If you're GM and your friend is silver, you can play together. And they'll put you in a wide group where they try to find other groups that have similar team compositions and rank differences and stuff like that to make it as fair as possible, which I think is really, really cool. Let people play, enable people to play as much as they want. And this all connects to a quote that was said at the very beginning of the What's Next panel by the general manager of the Overwatch team, in which he said, quote, "Our main goal with Overwatch 2 is to make PvP gameplay more rewarding and more fun." And these competitive changes to me are very much in line with that, where we want you to feel like you're getting more out of the game, you're having more fun with the game, and I think basically saying you can play with your friends no matter what. We're going to build our system around the fact that you're going to have friends that you're better than, or that you're worse than your friends in terms of your rank, but you still want to play with them because they're your friends and that's what you want to play for, and we're going to let you do that now. We're not going to make you have smurfing accounts or anything like that. We're going to let you just play with your friends because that's what you want to do, and I think that's a really good positive thing that they're doing, and I think that's really, really good for that reason. And so I'm excited to see how that goes. Maybe I'll play more competitive now, knowing that I can kind of play with my friends, and it doesn't really matter what rank they are, what rank I am. We can play no matter what. I think that's a really good change for that reason. And so I'm excited to see where it goes. They also announced something else with Hero Mastery, which I didn't talk about yet, which is they're adding the Hero Mastery Gauntlet, which is a 3-player co-op kind of tower defense mode that you can play, which is cool. I think more options for both PvP and PvE, single player and multiplayer stuff is good. Whatever it is, just providing options for people to play the game the way they want to play is good. And making the game have more stuff, and more stuff that's available at all times, is really, really nice. And so I'm excited for this as well. They talked a bit about future collaborations, that they're in the works. They just can't talk about them yet. Wish we got some news on what the specifics are, but understandable. The final big thing that I want to talk about is they announced a change to the premium battle passes, which is that in the future, when you get a premium battle pass, you'll be able to choose between the current mythic skin or a previous one that you don't have, which I think is a very nice change. I'll be honest, the current mythic skin, the Hanzo one, I don't care for it. I think it's kind of ugly. I don't really like it that much. And so the fact that they're saying, yeah, you can, if you are someone who doesn't like a mythic skin, you can get a different one. You can get whatever you want, You missed out on the Tracer skin? Here you go, you can get it instead. You missed out on the Zeus Junker Queen? Here you go, you can get it instead. I love that. Really, I do. I think it's a great change. I think it's phenomenal. And I think it's going to be better for players to have more control over the stuff that they get. And I think that's a positive at the end of the day. So, overall, everything they announced to me, really, really cool. Really, really good stuff. I'm really, really happy with the announcements that we got this BlizzCon. There was a quote from, I believe it was from Dion Rogers during the opening ceremony, where he said that the Overwatch team has never had a greater clarity of vision than they do now. And I think this BlizzCon really does show that quote fully. That this feels like a team that really has a sense of what they want to do, and they feel so different than the Overwatch team of the past. Maybe it's Aaron Keller, maybe it's other parts of it, I don't know. But, under Jeff Kaplan, this team was very coy. They would not talk about pretty much anything. They kept most things under wraps. Everything was very much, we're not going to talk about it till it's ready, till it's done, till it's ready to ship. That's when you're going to see it. This team is like, hey, want to see the next 2 heroes after Malga? Want to see some rough footage that is definitely going to be changed by the time you see it? But you want to see it anyway? Stuff like that never would have happened under Jeff. So this is a different direction of the Overwatch team that I really, really like. I'm loving the stuff we're seeing. I'm glad they're seemingly taking risks. I'm glad they're listening to the community. They're trying to make a game that people really, really want to play. And I just think it's such a good direction for Overwatch right now. I have not been this excited about Overwatch really in a long time. Like, I am more excited about Overwatch 2 now than I was at launch. Genuinely. Like, I love the story missions. I was excited about the story missions. I know we're still getting more story missions, right? And I'm excited about the stuff we're seeing because we're getting actual evidence and we're getting shown stuff. We know what to expect now. There's not this mystery looming overhead. We know we're getting stuff, and there's still mystery beyond all that still. And to me, that's a wonderful thing. And it's a change to this game and this team that I think is ultimately a positive, and I'm very excited to see where things are going. Like I said at the beginning of the video, link in the description to this amazing Reddit thread if you want to follow along with anything that I talked about in this one. And I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below on the BlizzCon presentations from the Overwatch team. Did you like them? Did you dislike them? Was there something you wanted to get that we didn't get? Is there something that you didn't expect to get but we got? Whatever thoughts you have, leave them in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing. Your support does help out a lot with this channel. That's going to be all for me, though, for today. Thank you all once again. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.